tell me, what would be the most heartwarming experience that you've had with helping people and being out in the community?
Well, I'll tell you this story that just comes to mind real quick. This was like something out of a movie or something to me. Not this past summer, but the summer before. I was coming back from the mountains. We were at our timeshare up there, and I had a bunch of food left over, and the family had to leave the day before.
Okay.
So I just hung out an extra day, and I had all this extra food, but I had to pull over to Circle K, get gas and stuff, and I saw this homeless guy over there. And I'm like, oh, for sure this guy needs food. Let me get my gas, my stuff. I'll pull over there, give him a bunch of food, hook him up. Well, just as I'm coming out the door from Circle K, here comes this guy on a racing bike, red racing bike, all dressed in leather, red helmet. I mean, he looked really cool. And I'm like, I just had this vibe. This guy's got to be a drug dealer. He's racing around up here, selling drugs, and then coming back to Phoenix. Real easy to do. So anyway, I pass him at the doorway, go over to the homeless guy, give him his food. We start talking. Well, here comes the guy on the bike. He had grabbed a sandwich in there, and he literally sat down right behind the homeless guy. We were at this little table. He was at this one. Well, he heard us talking. He was listening to our conversation. The homeless guy could have reached out and touched him.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started talking to him about the Lord. He was an alcoholic and just down on his luck, and it was bad,
Wow.
So anyway, I gave him his food. I didn't have a bunch of money or anything with me, but I did have the food, and I had Jesus, and so I started, leading him to the Lord. Next thing I know, this guy finishes his sandwich. He stands up, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a wad of cash like that.
Wow.
And drops it down right in front of the guy. Jumps on his bike and speeds away.
Oh my God.
And the guy goes, oh my gosh. Put it in his pocket. He goes, I'm not going to count it. And I'm like, go get a haircut, go get a hotel room, get some clean clothes, and go get your painting job back, get into rehab and get sober, So just by him, who I believe to be a drug dealer, overhearing me and the homeless guy talking about Jesus, he got convicted and emptied out every dollar he had in his pocket and gave it to that man. It was awesome.
Wow. That is
So
awesome.
yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, there it is again. It's only God.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy too, because like I read a bunch of books, and I recently finished a book called The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand, and it kind of talks about how there's a good and a bad selfishness. The bad selfishness is where obviously it does things for benefit of yourself, but out of the expense of others. But then there's the good selfishness where it does something good for you, but it does good to others as well. And especially in that case, it's you felt compelled to do the Lord biddings, to do what Jesus says, to talk to that guy, give him a sandwich, help him through it. And by that, what you're doing there, that other biker, he felt compelled to do the same as well. Mm-hmm. Whether it's just for that moment of conviction where, because he wanted to satiate his own pain that he was feeling from hearing that story and the empathy of it, it did a good onto others, and then he had the ability to do all that you were saying.
It was beautiful. I mean, I'll never forget it. I can't forget it.
Yeah.
But I've had so many crazy stories out there. I had another one, not this summer, but the summer before again. This guy came up to me and he was like, hey, can you help me? I go, sure, what do you need? I was doing feeding homeless with the church that day.
Okay.
I'll go with the church as well, and we'll do like 500 to 800 people, but there's a whole lot of us involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my outreach, there's just a few of us at a time. But long story short, I go, yeah, what do you need? And he goes, I think this guy's went to the beyond. And I go, went to the beyond? You mean you think he's dead? He goes, yeah, I think he's dead.
Oh, wow.
And I grabbed my phone. I'm like, well, I better call 911. And then I was like, you know, there's a lot of mental illness down here. I better go see first. So I said, take me over to what you're showing or telling me. And he took me over there. And Josh, I'm not kidding you, man, about 25 yards away. I didn't have to get no closer. The smell of his body, the dead body, hit me in the left side of the nostril. I mean, it was just like ammonia or something.
Wow.
It was a smell like nothing I'd ever experienced. And there happened to be a police officer at the end of the road at the stop sign about a block and a half away. So I waved him over, and I was like, get the coroner's office. So, you know, they pull back the tent, and the flies and the smell. He had been in there like 3 days, and it was hot.
Oh,
It was just heinous. So I guess he died of cancer in there. But there's people that die out there all the time, every summer, just from the heat. It's so hot out there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be homeless in Arizona, it's probably one of the toughest places on earth to be homeless here, hands down, just because of the heat.
Yeah, because I mean, like this year, for example, we had record-breaking heat waves. We were constantly 110, 120 plus degrees.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what, yes, we all have our own struggles, and like people's ACs go out, people go through hard times, they're struggling, but for like the homeless, for example, they don't have an escape for that. I mean, they're lucky if sometimes they're allowed to stay in a place, sometimes they'll have AC, but otherwise they're just out there dealing with that raw heat all alone.
Yeah. There's another group that goes out there. I don't know who they are, but they deliver ice.
Okay.
And it is so cool.
Yeah.
You know, these big bags of ice for the people. And a lot of people will roll through there with donations like coolers, ice, cold water. I mean, cold water is like gold out there in the summertime, you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, there's a lot of love out there. A lot of people do what I do. I can take the credit for none of it. I was called to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing it, though, Josh.